guys.
Smile. Okay. 1, 2. Don't look at the cameras.
Oh, we might see it in the blue and gold. Okay, good shot.
Are you all looking at yourself on television here? Anything in your teeth?
You are on television.
I know the back of my head looks really nice.
Oh,
Camera's right over here.
All right.
All right,
Thank
photos?
you.
Yep.
Thank you. All right,
Thank you.
Logan, we gotta go. Thank you guys for everything.
Why are you the biggest cushy chairs?
yeah, we have.
And then upgrade anything that I want. This is the second one. I'm just helping.
We gotta go.
Everybody out except us.
When it says, click on it. Click on it. Click on it.
I didn't even know that they're the highest test. Yeah, stand right there. I'll go take a picture.
Yeah, I'm starting it. Dude, you have to click
Edit.
Yeah, I already clicked that.
You don't want to block the
Who's dancing? Why is it live?
Just now.
That's where we're all crying around.
And then you start from that one because this is what I know. I'll just buy any. You can use other things. See? That's correct. Yeah, it's too easy.
You guys are all set for tomorrow? We'll see you guys tomorrow night.
Wait, Nick, can you see me?
My house 5. What did I say? 6:30. My house 6:30. What do you guys bring me? It's at 6:30. It's whatever you bring, Steve.
So funny.
How many people are staying?
We got 5.
Wait, what do you do when you stay? What do you do when you stay?
If you want to step in.
Hey, you want to stay for this fucking ceremony? The meeting?
Yes. You and mine.
So,
Okay, welcome to everybody. I apologize that we are running late tonight. I'd like to welcome everybody to the Board of Selectmen meeting for Tuesday, January 15th, 2019, and we are honored tonight to have some of the scouts from the Hopkinton Scout Troop 4, the Weeblo Scouts, who have agreed to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Step right up, gentlemen. You start us off. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much.
Nice job, fellas.
Nice job. I appreciate you waiting all this time. Prior to our opening meeting, and this is the reason for our long delay, the board met in executive session to consider litigation strategy with respect to the petition of Eversource Energy for a zoning exemption from the DPU, to consider litigation strategy with respect to TJA Clean Energy LLC versus Hopkinton Planning Board, and to consider the purchase, sale, lease, or value of real property in relation to Open Space Preservation Center, Strail Town Hall, and the Main Street corridor. And this is because the chair declares that discussion in open session will be detrimental to the litigating or negotiating position of the board.
Madam Chair,
Mr. Herr.
I did not participate in any dialogue specific to item 2 under the contract negotiations, litigation, real property agenda.
No, you didn't. And because of time constraints, we actually did not discuss the land sale issue.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Before we get started with our regular meeting, I'd just like to give a formal hello. Tonight we are honored to have, I see, the very fine and qualified gentleman who has agreed to be the town's chief financial officer. His name is Mr. Tim O'Leary. I see him in the back of the room. Would you like to just come up for a minute and say hello to us, Tim? Come say. We had the chance to welcome Tim a few weeks ago, but it was by remote participation, so it was sort of a disembodied voice. So here's the real thing. Welcome aboard, Tim.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Is this Arizona, Tim?
Great to be here in New
Mexico. Mexico. Comes from Los Alamos Nuclear Facility. So, welcome aboard. We're very glad
Nice
you're
to be
here,
here.
Tim. Thank you so much. Okay. We have a consent agenda with a number of items, and I will read them all. Oh, I'm sorry, is there a public forum? And I must mention, because we're running so far behind, at 7 o'clock there is a posted public hearing, so I may need to interrupt this just to address the posted public hearing. But first of all, we usually do have a public forum. Are there any members of the public who would like to speak? Two gentlemen. Mr. Terry?
Hello, everyone.
Good evening.
Tom Terry, 17 Pleasant Street. Oh, no, Maple Street. I moved 10 years ago. Two items I have, a couple questions, probably for the town manager, but through the board. I'm concerned, Madam Chair, about the traffic light down at Legacy Farms. It's been an ongoing delay about when that light is going to go in, and I know there are 1,000 reasons, but I have one that I'd like to see it put in before somebody gets hurt down there. So I was wondering if we could find out what's the report of progress on that and why that light is not in. It not only has to be a light because it's on a curve, both entrances to it are on a curve and a circle and a hill. So I think it's something that we should move forward as a board. And is there some way that so could I speak to Norman about this directly?
I can have Mr. Kamalo address you. My understanding when those plans were approved, that there were certain stages and certain sort of trip points which would call for the next stage of development, and I think the traffic light was a part of that. I agree with you for the need for that. My recollection in the plan was there was a certain level of development before it would be called in, unless we have the ability to request that sooner, which perhaps we will. Does some of our town staff have more information? That's my recollection from when I was on the planning board.
Yeah, through the chair, Mr. Terry, thank you so much for your continued interest in making sure that the traffic light is installed sooner rather than later.
Right.
In fact, this matter is on the planning board's agenda at its next meeting. Preliminarily, I believe and I understand the consultants are recommending that the light be installed.
Good.
Has the traffic study been done?
Yes.
And it's successfully qualified to have the light put in?
I have not read the complete study, but my understanding is that the consultants are recommending that the traffic light be installed.
We had another accident down there this week, too. That was my one thing, Madam Chair. Thank you, Norman. The other issue that I have is the progress on the Center School reuse committee. And I know they were here 2 or 3 months ago, and there was a packet that had been made up about what was concluded, and they had a study done, and it was to be turned over to the permanent PBC, the Permanent Building Committee. And the Permanent Building Committee was to meet with Norman, and I've asked continuously in various areas of the town as to when we can get this meeting, because I'd like to attend it and boot it along a little, because there should be something on the agenda for the annual town meeting this year regarding at least some consulting, some study, some planning money. Because there are many facets of the town, like maybe a town center they were talking about, a youth center. The school was planning on using it for a little thing for storage and maybe some teaching of some of the special needs groups. And the library, there were dozens of people that wanted to use it. And if this can move along, they could get going. But the most important thing, in my mind, is the building sitting idle and deteriorating. It's got to be heated, it's got to be monitored. First thing you know, people are going to be throwing stones at the windows. It needs attention. And this is something that needs some deadlines, and it needs the deadlines followed up. And I was wondering if there's any progress on that subject.
I can tell you that the Board of Selectmen turned that over to the Permanent Building Committee. They have been working on it. My understanding, I believe, and Mr. Kamala can fill us in a little bit more, is that they will be preparing some kind of an article for town meeting, because we understand we don't want to miss this funding cycle. We need to get moving with some, engineering and some concrete, no pun intended, progress towards it. For all those reasons that you just said, we want to do it smartly. We don't want to rush into something till we've done all our homework, but at the same time, as you said, the longer a building stands idle, the more problems that do occur. So there haven't been any public reports, but my understanding is the committee is moving ahead with recommendations to bring to town meeting to move the process forward. Am I correct in that, Mr. Kamala?
Yes, you are correct. In fact, we plan to have a placeholder article on the town meeting warrant in relation to Center School. The Permanent Building Committee did attempt to schedule meetings during the holiday seasons, but because of conflicting schedules, they were not able to do so. They are working on scheduling a meeting sooner rather than later.
So what you're saying is there has been no meeting, there has been no decision-making done, and everything is the same way as it was when they were assigned the project 2 months ago?
No, that's not what I'm saying.
There has not been a meeting, right? Because I talked to Dan McIntyre, who's the head of the PBC, and he had not had a meeting with his constituents or with the board, with you, yet, and this was last Friday.
Oh, no. I have met with Mr. McIntyre. We have met also with Dave Del Torio. Mr. McIntyre did ask us to collect some background information for him. He has the information that we collected for him.
Okay. When the committee that Rick Flannery was the chairman of, the reuse committee, finished their charge. They presented you, or someone presented you, with a so-called packet. We had a lot of information, and a lot of work had been done. You referred to that at the meeting back in November that I'm referring to. And that packet had a lot of information already to get that project started. Is that correct?
There was very good information also from other studies that the town had done, namely the library feasibility study, as well as the feasibility study for the Center Elementary School.
Excuse me, I need to interrupt for just a minute. We have a posted 7 o'clock public hearing, so I need to simply open that public hearing, and then we can pause that to continue our discussion. We have a 7 o'clock posted public hearing for asset naming of the Fruit Street property access road. This is the Board of Selectmen to hold a public hearing pursuant to its public asset naming policy to consider a proposal to name the main access road within the town-owned property at 66 Fruit Street for public safety purposes. Proposed names received for the access road are George Brown Way, Mary Pratt Way, Pine Way, Sports Complex Way, or Stone Throwers Way. May I have a motion to open the public hearing?
So moved. Second.
All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, and we will, now, do I need any kind of a motion to put that on hold, or we can just, now that we've opened it, just continue?
There's no need for a motion.
Okay, so anyone who is here for that, we will get to that article in just a moment. The public hearing has been opened.
Madam Chair, specific to the issue that Mr. Terry raises,
Yes.
which is a legitimate concern, I think, brought by him and many others share in town, tonight would not be the night that we're going to make any traction to solve this problem, but I think raising it to the board's level, and I'm directing Mr. Kamalo to get this resolved as soon as possible with Mr. Terry and others concerned, I think would be the next best step, or the best next step.
Thank you, Mr. Hurd. Could I have a date as to the soon? I don't like as soon as possible.
I'd love to go out on a date with you, Mr. Terry, but I'm tied up right now. I might be involved with this. You'll have to get with Mr. I don't know, Madam Chair, how you want to do that, but I think try to get a date soon would be ideal.
Isn't next Wednesday the day when the article,
The 5th, February 5th, the warrant will close.
what's the 23rd of,
That is for the special town meeting that we just opened. That's going to be
Okay.
February 11th. So I know there is a committee and it's working on it. I know that they are planning to put an article on the warrant so that we can get some funds needed.
I'd like to hear that they're going to meet in the next 10 days. Then I'll leave.
Mr. Kamalo?
Well, maybe what we
Yeah,
can do, I was going to say, inquire of the chairman when their
Yes,
next meeting up
exactly.
and let you know that.
Yeah.
Because they
And I'll
have
touch
been
base with you
meeting.
tomorrow.
Okay.
Mayor
Thank you very much, everybody.
So you're going to call him tomorrow?
Yes, I'll call Tom, I'll call Dan, I'll call
And see when
Dave.
when the
Yeah.
next meeting is, okay. And I think, Mr. Tewitt, why don't you address the board as well? Thank you.
Good evening, Madam Chair. Jerry Tewitt, 4 Price Street. I'd just like to take 2 minutes to make a statement, and then I'll make you an offer. Recently, I learned the Board of Selectmen has no written policy on outreach to community organizations by town officials, hired or appointed by the board. Our town officials, as our representatives and yours, currently are left to decide with no guidelines which organizations' events they will support in their official capacity. I believe, given the climate of controversy we now live in, where it seems virtually everything is politicized, your outreach policy should be put in writing. Such a policy would flow. Did someone say something? Such a policy would flow from our town charter. The charter welcomes residents of all races, ethnicities, religions, abilities, gender identifications, sexual orientations. The town further is committed to providing a climate of safety and acceptance to all residents. The town will actively address and resist acts of discrimination, bullying, or intimidation. It also states that elected and appointed officials and employees of the town shall not use their official positions to secure or grant special consideration, treatment, advantage, privilege, or exemption to themselves or to any other person beyond that which is available to every other person. In summary, Our charter requires town employees to support the goal of a welcoming, safe, and accepting climate free from discrimination, intimidation, and favoritism. The Board of Selectmen has verbally directed town officials to reach out in their official capacity to organizations without clearly specifying what the board intended, to whom officials are to reach out or how. Officials are left to decide without guidelines to whom they will reach out, how often, and in what manner. The charter prohibition against special treatment and consideration might well be trampled, however well-intentioned the effort of our officials. For example, when outreach appears to be an official endorsement of an individual or group, when officials refuse equal access for any reason to similar organizations. In principle, outreach is desirable. Indeed, everyone in the community stands to benefit. It is important also in outreach that no member of our community is made to feel offended, discriminated against, threatened, or less secure in any way. I ask the board to initiate the effort to convert the verbal policy of community outreach to a written policy, and I offer to do a draft of that policy and present it to the board. Thank you. Any questions?
Welcome. If you have a draft that you want to bring, I think that's a great starting point. Have something in writing that you've...
I don't have anything now.
No, but
Madam
you are
Chair.
offering. No, you're offering. I would take you up on your offer.
I didn't. I would love to do that for you. And
Please do.
you can take it from there.
Okay.
I will do that.
I would be in favor of that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Can you have it by the end of the meeting? Can you have it done by the end of the meeting?
I don't believe this meeting's ever going to end, Mr. Costello, so let's move on.
All right, moving forward.
We have a rather lengthy consent agenda, which can be taken at any time. I'm thinking where we had the public session that was opened at 7, and there are some people who are here for that, that if other board members don't object, I would like to take the 7 o'clock item, public hearing, and we can return to the consent agenda.
Works for me.
Okay, so again, we are returning to our posted public hearing, and this is for a naming of the Fruit Street Property Access Road. The fire chief for quite a while has wished that this road have a name for safety purposes, for identification purposes. There are 6 suggested names. Again, George Brown Way, Mary Pratt Way or Road or Lane, Pratt Way or Road or Lane, Pine Way or Road or Lane, Sports Complex Way or Road or Lane, and Stone Throwers Way. And to date, the only public input that I have seen sent to the board simply stated one citizen felt it was not wise to name things after landowners or individuals in town. So, I'm opening this up to the public and to members of the board for input. Okay. Mr. Hurd?
So I think by process of elimination, with Mr. Brown having a nice statue on the common, I think he's been duly recognized in the community. I would scratch that name. Sports Complex Way is beyond boring, so I would scratch that name. Stone Throwers Way, I don't know all the history behind that. I'm sure Mr. Ted's going to be glad to share it with me. But we'll do that offline, give me the hour. I like items B or C personally, but I'm open for discussion.
So I feel very similarly. George Brownway, I like that we kind of do a lot of focus on him uptown at the Common with the statue and whatnot. I would be amenable to B, C, or D. E is too generic. I like F too. So I guess I would be amenable to B, C, D, F at this point.
This end of the table, who would like to go first? Mr. Nasrallah.
Personally, I like generic. I think Sports Complex Way makes sense. It's kind of telling you where you're going and for people coming to visit. It would certainly certainly be illustrative as to where they're going. I'm interested in hearing the background on Stone Throwers Way, but I'm not adverse to B or C.
And for me, E or F, only because it's the Pine property and the Pratts are across the street. We also own a bunch of Pratt property that we may have to put some roads on eventually also. And so that would be appropriate to name, Mary's land after Mary. And then because I would feel bad if we name it Pine, then I feel bad for the Pratts. If I name it Pratt, I feel bad because it's Pine property. So if we just pull them right out of it, Sports Complex Way, that's where we have all of our fields. And Stone Throwers, that brings us back in history, and I think that's good.
So the Sports Complex Way, that could be misleading. We put a brand-new turf field right here in the center of town, and that's where a good portion of our sports will be played as well. So, I'm not saying your opinion's wrong. I'm not saying it's right, but I'm not saying it's wrong. And Stone Throwers Way is, I don't want to get into a 20-minute dissertation on what the Stone Throwers were. It was what they called our sports teams back in the 40s and 50s and all the way up until the 80s when I played youth football, and it was we were the Stone Throwers back then when it was just Hopkinton. So there's a good contingent for, the old timers in town. I even throw myself in there that Stone Throwers is a nice way to preserve the history of the town. Pratt Way or Pine Way, it wasn't Mary Pratt's property, it was the Pratt family property. So I can tell you that I have had a conversation with Mary Pratt about this, and I will not go into detail on her comments, but they were very, very, very funny. But it would be, I'm sure it would be an honor for either family to have it named Pratt Way or Pine Way. We do have a member of the Pratt family here, I believe. Not here to speak. Not here to speak? He's just here to look good, I guess. I don't know. I guess we're going to put it to a vote.
Well, if I may weigh in too, because you get a vote.
You do?
I think Sports Complex Way is beyond boring, but that's just me.
That's two.
That's a couple of us. With respect to Pratt Way, there's a Mary Pratt Trail up there, which has been named already. As you said, we do have other Pratt property, and as well as Pines. I kind of understand and agree with where the citizen is coming from, who did write to the board and say, I think we would do well to stay away from naming it after existing people, entities. Sometimes for every individual that is honored, there is another individual who was not honored, and it engenders its own share of, whether you want to call them jealousies or negative feelings or whatever, but naming it after individual members of the community sometimes can have its downside as well. So going for something more generic or less associated with an individual existing member can be a less conflict-free, shall we say, option. The reason I like either George Brown Way or Stone Throwers Way, George Brown is no longer a resident of town, but he was associated with so much athletics, both within the town and within the state, and he's honored on the marathon for being firing the marathon starting gun, but he had connections to the Boston Bruins. He had connections, I believe, to the Celtics. He was father of many, many athletic entities, both within the town and within the state. So he's a huge athletic figure in the community. And the Stone Throwers, again, is the traditional old-time name for the Hopkinton athletic teams. Where that name came from, for those of you who are interested, when the train, which came through Hopkinton, used to come up the hill from Ashland, and it would go very slowly because it was plugging its way up the hill. And the kids had come down and they had a little game with the firemen on the train. They'd throw stones at the train, all in fun. And the firemen would throw pieces of coal back at the kids. And the boys would pick up the coal and they'd take it home to their mothers to burn in their stoves. And it was a daily little game they always played. And the Hopkinton boys became known as the stone throwers because they threw stones at the train to get the coal when it came up the hill from Ashland. So anyway, we don't have a, sounds like we got a lot of variety here, but I go with George Brown or stone throwers.
So just one more thing that's crossed my mind about Pine Way. We have a Pine Island and a what are the, chief? Pine Tree? So we have a couple of streets already that have the name Pine. So if you're calling for a medical emergency or any type of emergency, I think that it might be
problematic.
Yeah, it might be problematic. So I don't know if Pine Way would work. So I'm taking D off of my list. So that leaves me Pratt Way and Stone Throwers Way.
This is the public hearing, so if there are members of the public out there that would like to weigh in, you are invited. Seeing none?
Who picked this list?
What was the question?
From a variety of
Yes.
places.
It came from a variety of people.
Oh, okay. I
And
just,
some were already eliminated because they were too close to something else.
thank you.
Madam Chair, I move that we close the public hearing portion of this dialogue.
Second.
Okay. All those in favor of closing the public hearing, say aye.
Aye.
And opposed, that is unanimous, so we are not discussing this anymore?
Well, we can
Well,
discuss it.
We can
now.
discuss it, but just not the
Close that,
public.
yeah.
So I guess I could go stone throwers, so. I go stone throwers.
Would someone like to make a motion?
So I sat with Mrs. Pratt on the board for 3 or 6 years, I don't recall. And while we were viewed in the community by some as being complete opposites, we in fact got along extremely well. She would slip me very interesting notes during the meetings. Sometimes I couldn't repeat the notes or publish the notes. She just had a way about her to make her point. But we really had a great relationship, a very healthy relationship, and she had great passion for the town of Hopkinton. I think to this day she still does.
Absolutely.
And I think it would be a great honor to name the road after her. If there's not broad support for that, I can understand, not because of Mrs. Pratt or any of those things, personal things, but just because of public safety and naming assets and other policies we have in place. But I just want to say that Mrs. Pratt was a great pleasure to serve with, and she always had Hopkinton on her mind, and she still does.
Can I ask either Elaine or the fire chief, are there any roads that would conflict with Pratt Way? Pratt Street? No. And we definitely don't have another Stone Throwers Way.
We have Stone Gate.
The Stony Brook, there's a lot of names had a little conflict, so we're trying to weed through them.
So I don't know, I like Pratt, I'd like to make a motion to name it Pratt Way.
I'll second that.
Okay. The motion has been made, and you are going for Pratt Way, not Mary Pratt Way.
That's right.
Pratt Way, okay. We like way, not road, nor lane.
Pratt, I don't care what the last connotation is. It doesn't make a difference to me, whichever the board finds to be most amenable.
Everybody's happy with the way?
Well, Chief, what's easier for you guys?
My second was on Pratt Way, Madam Chair.
Okay.
All right.
Does the chief have any preference, way, road, lane? Okay. All right, so the motion before the board is for Pratt Way, which has been made and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And opposed?
No.
Okay. No, it was there, no, one no. There was one no. Okay, that is unanimous then. Okay, then Pratt Way. Thank you very much.
And no offense to Mary Pratt with my no.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Just going for the
Okay,
boring one.
I will go back to the consent agenda. There are about 5 different items. The Board of Selectmen will consider approving the minutes from the December 18, 2018 Board of Selectmen minutes. Item 2, St. John's Parish, special temporary alcohol license for the Parish Appreciation Dinner. The Board of Selectmen will consider approving an application from Maureen Belger on behalf of St. John the Evangelist Church, 20 Church Street, Hopkinton, for a special temporary alcohol license for the Parish Appreciation Dinner to be held in the Parish Hall, Saturday, March 2nd, 2019, from 6:15 to 10 p.m. Expected number of attendees is 120, and invitations will be sent out for this event. Marty's will be supplying the alcohol. A fee waiver has been requested by the applicant. Item 3, St. John's Parish Special Temporary Alcohol License Youth Group Fundraiser. The Board of Selectmen will consider approving an application from Maureen Belger on behalf of St. John the Evangelist Church High School Youth Group for a youth ministry fundraiser dinner to be held at the Parish Hall on Saturday, April 6, 2019, from 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. Marty's will be supplying the alcohol for the event, and alcohol will be served by tip-certified servers. Expected number of attendees, 125. A fee waiver has been requested by the applicant. Item 4, resignation. The Board of Selectmen will consider accepting the resignation of Ron Clark from the Community Preservation Commission effective December 31st, 2018. Item 5, ambulance gifts. The Board of Selectmen will consider accepting ambulance fund gifts totaling $175 in memory of Kathleen Gross and gift totaling $150 in memory of Thomas Roy Robeson. And finally, item 6, marathon fund requests. The Board of Selectmen will consider approving 2 marathon fund requests. From the Post-Prom Committee 2019, a total request of $4,390 for 7 games that will be part of post-prom celebration on May 10th, 2019 from Paul's Rental Supply, Leominster, $3,890, and for disc jockey Larry the Musical Dynamo, $500. And B, from the Hopkinton Police Association, a request for $1,500 for supplying fish for the annual Kids Fishing Derby on May 11th, 2019 at the Hopkinton Sportsmen's Association. So, which items, if any, would board members like to pull out for separate discussion?
Let's pull number 4.
Mr. Coutinho, that is the resignation, yep.
I'll do 5.
What did you say?
5.
Number 5 for Mr. Tedstone. Just checking, where both the alcohol licenses ask, well, they both ask for a fee waiver. So we can either understand that we're voting the fee waiver as well, or else pull that out separately.
No, we'll do the former.
Everybody's happy. Okay, so the 2 items to be pulled out are the resignation and the ambulance fund gifts.
Madam Chair, I move the Board of Selectmen consent agenda items 1, 2, 3, 6.
Yes, 1 is the minutes, yes. Okay, items 1, 2, and 6.
3.
3 and 6.
Okay, 1, 2, 3, and 6. All those in favor of approving items 1, board minutes, 2, Parish Center dinner, 3, youth fundraiser, alcohol center dinner with fee waiver, and 6, the marathon fund requests. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. And opposed, that is unanimous. Item 4, resignation of Ron Clark. Mr. Coutinho?
Yeah, I just want to make sure that we and the Board of Selectmen and the town understand the, how much Ron Clark has volunteered for the town and how much, what a great job he's done on CPC and the Board of Selectmen and various other committees in the town, and what an asset he's been. He's always up there at town meeting. Sometimes making it go a little longer, but always with a great comment, and he's just got a mind like a steel trap, and when it comes to numbers, you never want to challenge him. But I just want to say thank you to Mr. Clark for everything that he's done, and I really appreciate it. And make sure we get a letter out to him thanking him for his service to the town.
We do have that letter prepared, and I would add as well, many people know Ron also as having served on this board for many years, including as chairman, and within the CPC, many people may not know that Ron originally served on the study committee that looked at whether or not the town should adopt the CPC back in, I think it was, I wrote it down here, was it 2011, I think? Or 01, excuse me, 01. And Ron was a driving force behind the town having the CPC. So, big role.
So I'd like to make a motion to accept the resignation of Ron Clark from the CPC.
As an at-large member.
Second.
Second. Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Well, we're opposed, but I can't do much about it, right? Okay, ambulance fund gifts. The Board of Selectmen will consider accepting ambulance fund gifts totaling $175 in memory of Kathleen Gross and a gift totaling $150 in memory of Thomas Roy Robeson. Mr. Ted Stone.
Yeah, so obviously, anytime that this comes up, I'm always the one that speaks up for it, and what a great charity it is, and it's a nice lasting legacy. Kathy Gross was, her husband was a lieutenant on our fire department for a long time, and her son has been a firefighter for, I don't know, probably 15 years or so now. So even though she wasn't really so much an active member, she gave a lot by sacrifice. I mean, she sacrificed a lot by having her son and husband out there, giving it back to the town. So it's very appropriate that people are donating in the name of Kathy Gross, and it's nice to see that. And of course, Roy Robson again. It's just nice to see people giving in memory of these people to such a great charity. So thank you. And I would like to make a motion to accept the $150 in the name of Kathy Gross, $175 in Kathy Gross, and $150 for Roy Robson.
Second.
And before we vote on that, I would just like to publicly acknowledge the generous individuals in memory of Kathleen Gross, Alexis and Chris Miller, Theodore and Linda Patriciak, Carol and Frank Gross, and Beatrice McMullen, and to the ambulance fund in memory of Tom Robson, William G. Burke of the Burke Distributing Corporation. So that motion has been made and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? That is unanimous. Thank you. Okay. So now we have a joint meeting with the Board of Selectmen and the Commissioners of the Trust Funds. This is because the Board of Selectmen and the Commissioner of the Trust Funds will discuss appointing a temporary member to serve through the town election. That's through May 20th, 2019, for one spot that is open on the Commissioners. There has been one application received, and that is from Mary Dugan. So, is there anyone who, from the Trust, or Ms. Dugan, who would like to speak to that?
Janine Walk, Chair of the Commissioners of Trust Funds.
Hi, Janine.
So, if I may, I just wanted to say I do know Mary, and I think she would be a great addition to the Commissioners of Trust Funds, a longtime resident of Hopkinton, active in the town. And personally, I'm grateful that she has volunteered to step forward and fill this vacancy.
That's excellent. We're grateful. Are there questions? If not, I would entertain a motion to nominate Mary Dugan to serve as a Commissioner of Trust Funds until the next election on May 20th, 2019.
Second.
Was that moved? Someone moved?
So moved. Moved, okay. Right, you can't make the motion, I forgot.
Moved
They
by
can take
Mr.
it, they can take it.
Nasrallah and seconded by Mr. Cotino. Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, that is unanimous. Tell Mary, thank you very much. Welcome aboard. Mr. Kamal?
And the record will show that you voted in favor.
Yes.
Yes.
I need snacks.
I guess that wasn't long enough. All right.
Thanks.
Okay, oh my goodness, we're ahead of schedule.
For now.
For now. Mr. Kamala, was there a representative from Lykan that was coming to the meeting?
No, the next one is the host community agreement compliance statement.
Oh, I'm sorry, that's why I'm thinking we're ahead, because I'm on the wrong agenda item. Okay, 7:45, we're not too far off. Host community agreement compliance statement action. The Board of Selectmen will consider executing a statement indicating compliance with the host community agreement between REC Hopkinton LLC and Town of Hopkinton.
This is, sorry, through the chair.
Mr. Kamalo, can you please speak to this for us?
Yeah, this is an administrative step. It's driven by a provision in the host community agreement between the town and REC Hopkinton relative to the Muse development, which basically says either party has the right to request a compliance statement during the term of the agreement. And in this case, we are recommending that the board sign the statement presented in your packet indicating compliance with the host community agreement.
And the essence of the statement is that the agreement is in full force and effect and has not been modified, and there are no uncured defaults of any of the parties under the agreement. And that is correct.
That is correct.
Is that to date, or is that in its entirety?
To date.
So there's still open items?
No, I don't believe there are any open items. I think there are specific items of interest to the community that we monitor regularly. Most recently, we did request and were provided a report indicating the compliance relative to the affordable housing units.
If we issue this statement of compliance, does that limit our ability to make sure other things that are still open don't, or do get resolved, or do get covered?
It does not. Again, for the record, at this point, there's nothing open.
So to the best of your knowledge, we are in full compliance, as are they.
Yes.
Okay. Then I would request a motion to authorize the chair to sign the statement indicating compliance with the HCA between REC Hopkinton LLC and the Town of Hopkinton.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, and that's in my signature packet here, is it? Now, Mr. Kamal, Lykan, there's a representative going to be meeting with us?
Yes, I believe the team is here, in fact.
Okay, because I'm running ahead, so I don't want to jump ahead if people aren't here. Okay, well, welcome, thank you very much.
Thank you.
This is Lykan Bioscience LLC, and the Board of Selectmen will receive an update from Lykan Bioscience LLC regarding its interest to locate in Hopkinton, a TIF application, and related special town meeting preparations. So welcome, we're very glad to see you tonight, and happy you could be here and give us and the townspeople watching at home a little information on Lykan, which sounds like a great company for us.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting us here tonight. My name is Lynn Tokarczyk. I'm Government Incentives Consultant representing Lykan Bioscience. I'm here with Tony Rotuno, CEO of Lykan Bioscience, and David Dartel, right in back of me, CFO of Lykan Bioscience. Harold Mahigian is also present, who is the property owner of the proposed property. And I also know that there are some invited guests here tonight from the Chamber of Commerce, so they'll be walking in since we are ahead of schedule. So I'm sure you'll recognize them when they enter. First of all, I'd like to say that it's great to be back here. I've worked on several TIF projects in the past. Over the past 10 years or so, I was actually involved with working on the economic target area, the ETA, several years ago. So it's nice, and it's great to see all the transformation here and all the great amenities here in Hopkinton. So I'd also like to thank Norman Kamalo, the town manager, who has been very instrumental in his efforts with encouraging the company to expand here in Hopkinton, and as well as some of the other local officials. Elaine Nazareth, thank you very much for all of your assistance, and the town assessor as well. So we have a very brief slide presentation that we will share with you in basically 3 sections, if this works for you. Basically, who is Lykan Bioscience? What are their proposed expansion plans? And third, basically their intent to apply for tax incentives. So with that, I will turn it over to Tony.
We're ahead of schedule, so take plenty of time.
Okay. And thank you so much for inviting us here.
Thank you for coming, making the time for us.
Thank you, Lynn, Madam Chair and Board. I'd like to give a brief overview of Lykan Bioscience and what our business strategy is and our want to come to Hopkinton. Lykan Bioscience is an emerging manufacturer of cell and gene therapies, very new generation of therapeutics. So new that there's only 4 approved currently, but gaining a lot of traction, and it's the next generation of therapeutics over and above beyond what we've seen before from biologics. Company plans to lead the way in manufacturing clinical products out of the Hopkinton site for immunotherapies of cancer and other illnesses. I will say that our sole focus right now is oncology. That's where the greatest need is. That's where we see the greatest need, so that's where we'll focus. Immunotherapy is on a cutting edge of treatments that are less invasive than traditional cancer therapies, and they offer a promise of greater patient safety. This is personalized medicine for the most part, so we're using patient cells, patient's blood, treat the blood at what would be the Hopkinton site, send it back to the patient very quickly, with very little inventory or zero inventory, and then reinfused or reinjected back into the patient, lights the patient's own immune system up to whatever cancer they're fighting, breast, colon, lung, whatever the case may be. So the safety profiles are very good. Lykan plans to provide its products directly to hospitals and global pharmaceutical manufacturers. Currently, there's over 1,000 products in development, a lot of them coming out of the Cambridge area, and certainly on the West Coast, but companies like Sanofi or Novartis, but also Mass General, Harvard, MIT, Boston University, any university that develops cell lines. Stanford would be a great example too, Johns Hopkins. They would be our customers, and any biotech companies that exist that are in development of these products. You just, anytime you want to ask a question, just stop me.
I do have, so are you making a product that then performs these processes for the individual patient, or do you do the actual patient data analysis at your site, or is it both?
We do not do the data analysis. We do the analysis on our product.
Okay.
We will solely be a manufacturer. Okay. These products are developed elsewhere, researched and developed elsewhere. We will manufacture, and we will also control the supply chain to and from the hospitals or the doctors, and then back to the patient.
So are you getting patient information that comes into your company, or?
We don't get patient information. We know we have a specific way to identify patient A from B, C, D, E, F, so there's no chance of a mix-up going back to the patients, but we do not know the specifics of the patient.
So does the patient population you serve, can that be nationwide?
It is nationwide.
It is nationwide. It's
yes.
It's not localized.
It's not localized, yeah. No, nationwide.
You can be providing services for someone in California.
Yes. Yes.
I didn't mean to interrupt you, but.
No, it's
I understand what
overview.
you're talking about. Thank you.
Lykan Bioscience plans to choose locations for its clinical manufacturing operations, which we have chosen, and we've chosen Hopkinton, specifically at this point in time, 97 South Street facility. We've conducted searches in and out of the state, primarily in Arizona and South Carolina to this point. I will say that we've done a national search. We've ended up with a small bucket of sites that really fit the bill. One being that, why would we choose Hopkinton? Because access to airports is critical. So we have Logan, and we have TF Green, and we have Worcester. Why? Because the patients, we had the opportunity to work on the first approved product. So we have 6 years of experience with the first cell therapy approved for prostate cancer called Provenge. It was approved in 2010. Since there's been 2 more. But very quick time frame back to the patient. In the case of Provenge, it was only 18 hours once manufacturing was complete, back to the patient, wherever they were in the country. We did 85% of our production out of a site south of Atlanta, and those products, we did 80% of production out of Atlanta. We had a site in Seal Beach, California also. They took mainly California. But we could have distributed 95% of our products, even with an 18-hour time frame. So access to airports are critical. The access to talent in Massachusetts, obviously, and we have a lot of built-in customers right here in the Cambridge Metro West area. So be a good place to start, great place to start, actually.
Right, and just to address the bottom bullet, so a property at 97 South Street has been identified as a viable option.
Proposed investment plans, that site is about 64,000 square feet. It's a vacant building right now, and its intended purposes, we will do, it's research and development, but really we focus on the D. We will do development on the products incoming to Lykan to get them ready for manufacturing and for commercial use. We will do clinical manufacturing as these products, as I said before, there's over 1,000 being developed. As they work their way through the clinical cycle over the next 5, 10, 15 years, they become approved, and then they're ready for commercial manufacturing. We will take everything up and including commercial manufacturing. Projected investment is about $12 million. That includes $10 million in construction costs and $2 million in personal property. We intend to create 125 permanent full-time jobs over a 5-year period, and we'll get into more of a discussion on what they are. Be a blend of talents and skills, but engineering, lab techs, assembly, quality control, logistics, sales, office and administration. It's a fully fledged pharmaceutical company, and you'd see everything that you have in if it was Merck or if it's a Lykan. Obviously, we're a little speck compared to Merck, but you would see everything that we have there. These jobs are not relying on a college degree, especially in manufacturing, and certainly some of the support functions. We're looking for smart people, smart kids, and we'll train them. No one's going to come out of school knowing what to do here anyway, so we're very happy to take the best and brightest and give them a great career, and they won't need to go to 4-year school to be able to do that. I know we're going to talk about, we'll have competitive salaries and benefits. Average salary is somewhere around $100,000, not including benefits, for that 125 that's up there. So very well-paid jobs, great compensation plan and benefits packages. It will be we want Lykan to be the place to work. If you want to work in Massachusetts, bar none, they'll want to work at Lykan. That's how we intend to keep the culture like that.
So I know that Sanofi
yes.
is doing a lot of, they're a big hitter in this area.
Yes.
I also know that they're on their way to put as much as they possibly can into Cambridge.
Yes.
There's a lot of people out in this way that are dying to not drive into Cambridge.
I don't blame them.
So I think that it's, as far as Hopkinton goes, I think it's great. We'd welcome you in as a business in town, but I think it's great for you guys too that there's, I know 15 people that work for Sanofi that are poised to give their resignation because they don't want to drive to Cambridge.
Yes.
And you'll be able to strike while the iron is kind of
We'll hold those or we'll be poised to take them. So, but, and that's what I meant, access to talent, and that's specifically what I meant in this area right here. There's a ton of talent to pull from, and that's really what we want. We want good people that want to have a great career and come and work here. It's a lot easier working here than it is in Cambridge.
Good road connectivity, too.
Better town.
Yeah. Well, we're the center of New England. With the Mass Pike and 495, we truly are the center of New England, from Maine to Rhode Island, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Want to put it up here? Okay. Companies and its employees plan to spend annually with local businesses, certainly in my case, restaurants, retail establishments, bars. We use all your corporate services, industrial services, and we do plan to become and this is something my CFO has been pushed from the beginning, and it's something that my culture is here, and I've worked here before, and we used high school interns, we used college interns, and obviously Hopkinton would get the nod first for those. But we want to encourage kids in high school to come and understand what a cell therapy manufacturer is, and what kind of career you could have at a facility like Lykan. But we plan to become an active member of the community, support local programs, and not just monetarily. We'll volunteer our time. We'll start doing that right away. Food banks, wherever you guys have, for us to take part in and contribute. It's a way to get ourselves out there and really give back to the community. We've been very fortunate to have successful careers our whole life, and we'll wind it up the right way.
So just to do a recap on some of the benefits to Hopkinton, really it would put Hopkinton in the position to attract another life science manufacturer. As we were just talking about, it's really almost the bookends, Cambridge, Worcester, and the industry is really growing in this area, in the Metro West area. So it'd be a great opportunity to attract this company to an underutilized property and to really revitalize. That the property, 97 South Street, has been vacant for about 7 years. And, as properties become, vacant the longer and longer, they, tend to deteriorate over a period of time. So this would be a way to really spark up some economic development there, while increasing real estate tax revenue as well. When you talk about an estimated $10 million capital expenditure, that's certainly going to increase the assessed value of the building and create a positive impact on the local businesses and community. And it's really about attracting a great corporate neighbor.
An important point that doesn't show up here it's not in these slides right here, is that because of the nature of our business, we're a manufacturing services organization. We don't have our own products. We manufacture everyone else's products, so we have no risk of failure. Products that fail do not affect Lykan. So it's not like we're going to come and, we had a couple failures, we're going to go out of business, because it just gets filled with the next product that makes it through the regulatory hurdles. So that being said, Lykan never needs to go away. Lykan, really, what will happen, the reality is that Lykan will expand as these products become more viable, as they make it into phase 3 commercial. For every one of those phase 3s that we do here in Hopkinton, the commercial product needs to start and be made there. So that's another expansion. So every one of those that make it is another expansion, because we won't have the capacity to manufacture for the clinic, which we're dedicated to doing, because the simple truth is now that the oncology patients right now don't have access to these drugs because we have no one to make them. And the guys that do make them very slow. Lykan's focused on throughput, getting as much through as we can to serve as many patients as we can. So we intend to fully keep the clinical arm constantly running, and as these products become commercial, we'll do more expansions, and we'll just expand. Obviously, if we start here, here's where we're going to be. Mm-hmm. So 10 years from now, it could be a much bigger story than 125. Actually, 5 years from now, probably be a much bigger story than 125.
Right, so you can see there's a lot of opportunity for growth. So the last slide we wanted to focus on is on the tax incentives. So as you know, as we mentioned, Hopkinton is an economic target area, and there's a program that Hopkinton has participated in the past known as the Massachusetts Economic Development Incentive Program. It's actually been around for 25 years now, since 1993. And so again, Hopkinton has participated and offer potential tax incentives to companies. And so tax increment financing, which is known as a TIF, is an exemption on the new growth of assessed value in the new taxes that are generated. So essentially, it's a discount on future taxes. So a TIF does not apply to the existing building or the taxes that the town is currently receiving. Again, it's only on the new taxes. And it's a minimum of 5 years, a maximum of 20 years for any particular length of a TIF, as you may know, in a minimum exemption of 1%, and the maximum is 100%. So the town is in the position, based on that capital expenditure of approximately $10 million, and whatever the assessed value is determined to be the new assessed value, to collect new tax revenue over a period of time. So again, it's very important that it's to say, again, that it's a discount only on projected future taxes, and there is no loss to the community. So where we stand now is we have been working with Norman and his team, and as far as the process, the company and the Norman's team of other local officials will hopefully work out some type of arrangement that would be presented back to you, to the Board of Selectmen, for a recommendation to town meeting. So we do need your support, the Board of Selectmen, that is required. And then as you may know, town meeting has the final approval for any TIF proposal. And then once town meeting has approved it, then the state has final approval, because it is a state program, and they also must approve any proposed TIF. So that is really the background of the project and the proposed plan and the intent to apply for incentives. So thank you very much.
Any questions? I'm happy to answer.
Well, I just want to say I really appreciate you taking the time and everything you've presented, and I hope people at home are watching this, because we do have the special town meeting scheduled to consider and hopefully approve the TIF. But, you know, I just want to say that from everything you said, you know, so many aspects of your company are an excellent fit for this community. Not only the obvious benefits that you bring, but the type of company, obviously the benefits, and also from what you said, your corporate philosophy and your reasons for wanting to come to Hopkinton really mesh beautifully with the kind of community that I believe that we are. And I've been in this town for close to 40 years. Part of our culture that I have seen has been built on strong business community partnerships. Back in the day, it went back to some individual families and family businesses. Times change, those entities changed. We've moved into areas where they're more corporate entities, but we've always had a strong partnership. We as the town have always tried to communicate with our business partners how much we value them. As you probably know, we've every year consistently maintained a single tax rate, that businesses should not be punished in any way, that we want to all be on the same footing, because they are very important economic partners and social partners for us. And so everything you have said to us, from my understanding of the town, is a very good fit for us, both economically and from our own culture that I've seen in 40 years. So I jumped in first. Usually the chairman doesn't do that, but I couldn't resist. Are there questions or other members from our board, from our members of the board?
I really appreciate you considering Hopkinton, you know, in this era of people trying to attract Amazon and, you know, giving, you know, Worcester, I think, was offering the airport and everything else. And I'm just glad that we can do it with just a TIF. Because it's just, it's important. We really would like to make Hopkinton the center for biotech and research. You know, we actually modified our recreational marijuana law to make sure that we could actually do research for that here. And now with the president just doing an executive order allowing hemp, that there'll be additional research that people might pick Hopkinton for. So I just really appreciate you being one of the first and coming in and taking over one of those empty buildings.
Thank you.
Just want to say, I think that the bioscience, life sciences field seems to be on the cutting edge these days. It's an exciting field. My brother is very active in it. And in fact, when I was first came here, he gave me the advice that we should get certified for attracting some of the biopharmaceutics. So I think this is really exciting. And personally, I look forward to having a new neighbor in town.
Thank you.
I think this is a great idea, and we sure hope that you folks do, in fact, come to Hopkinton. I've been on the board for some time now and been through a couple of TIFs, and they've worked well here in Hopkinton. They've worked well for our clients, our tenants, or our businesses coming to town. I view them as a customer, as a client, and they've worked well for the town, too. So as long as we draft it in a way, and Mr. Kamala knows what he's doing there, it'll work for both sides. I'm excited about that. I do have a couple of questions, and please don't read into them. I'm just trying to fully understand kind of where we are here. So will there be any infrastructure needs from Lykan from the town in terms of water, wastewater, anything like that?
No. Water usage, because of the type of manufacturing it is a fraction of what was used before in the building. So we've just put in we just put 10,000 gallons a day, and that's all use in combined. We won't even come close to using that, to be honest.
Yeah, we've got some good infrastructure going to that site or that whole area now from a previous investment that was made, and so we're good there. But I just wanted to make sure you guys.
We're a low water user.
Okay, great. How about biohazard classifications on site? Anything like that our fire department?
Biohazard, be all BL1, BL2. I mean, these products are taken right in the, most of the patients, you get their blood drawn right in the Red Cross or any common area in any hospital, so.
So nothing extreme or?
No, and even the vaccines, whatever we'll use, whatever we need to do, whatever antigens we're using will not be, but nothing above a BL2 for sure, likely all BL1. All of our waste, because again, it's compact, will all be carted away.
Got it, thank you. How about timing? What's your timing for what you're trying to do? You may have mentioned that
right
earlier.
now.
Thus the February town meeting.
Yeah,
okay. Should have known that one. Are you guys going to capital markets to fund this? Or are you doing this internally, or?
We have some investors that, not capital markets, but.
Okay, but lined up and all good and solid there. I see the CFO.
We're close.
Back there, so.
We're very close.
Got it. Okay. Yeah, I think it's an excellent opportunity for the town of Hopkinton. TIFs sometimes can draw a little bit of confusion amongst some of us in town, but I think the benefits outweighs the perceived risks that some people see with TIFs. And I know personally that they've worked well in the past, and even when somebody decided it wasn't going to work out and they took off, the TIF still was in place, and the town received the funds that it should have received along the way. So I think it can work out really well.
Thank you.
Appreciate you being here tonight.
Thank you.
So with your projected growth and everything that's going along with what you presented to us tonight, is it your goal or hope that you would someday maybe go to a different building, expand in the area, or do you foresee all your business always being in the one building?
No, the reality is the one building will last for a while, maybe up to 5 years. That could change very quickly, though, because already we know what potential customers we will get. We could outgrow the building pretty quickly. We can't commit to that because
the numbers are still for
the TIF, but the likelihood is that we will, before the end of the 5-year period, we will have another building.
another building. And it's your goal to potentially have it in Hopkinton?
Yes, because with the rest of the senior team being here and the executive team and the headquarters, and really what's critical is the quality system that oversees this production, right? So the key quality people will be right here. So what goes through 97, same philosophy will go through the next building, and we don't want those people too far away from where the original building is. It just makes much more sense that we're in proximity to one another. Could it be on another street? Yeah, sure. Could it be up the street? Can it be somewhere else? Yeah, but.
And how long do you foresee, if you were to expand to another building, how long do you foresee it would take to retrofit a building like that? Or would you have to start from scratch?
Our guys are pretty quick. If we get a brownfield, if we get a gutted building, we could be up and running in less than a year.
Okay.
Validated and making product.
Okay.
I think an important thing now going forward as partners really is to, work to make our townspeople aware of the situation and understand, as Mr. Herr described, what a TIF is, what the benefits are, why this is a good thing for the town. People are worried about taxes, so we need to communicate and make sure that everybody understands what we're talking about and why we're talking about it, to hopefully be able to move this process forward in a positive way. It sounds like Lykan would make a great partner for the town.
We think so. And the state's very much behind us too. They want a true manufacturer for cell therapy and gene therapy, which they don't have one of those right now. And Lykan would fit that bill also. Obviously, being in Hopkins would be great for us. Great for you guys.
Great.
Further questions on the part of the board? Do you have questions for us?
No, thank you for all your support. We do know that there's a quorum requirement for a special town meeting, so we'll be, working also. The chamber has agreed. We actually met with the Chamber of Commerce this morning, the Board of Directors, and they have agreed to assist with some outreach and making sure that, it could be a very cold February evening, hopefully no snowstorms, so, to really gather the voters to the special town meeting. Thank you for your enthusiasm in attracting the company to Hopkinton.
Thank you, Lynn. We'll all be working on it, and again, we really appreciate you taking all this time and coming here, and we hope that we can have a beautiful relationship.
All right, thank you.
Thank you for your support.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay. Trail Coordination and Management Committee charge, and I see some people that are here for trail, so I think we're probably safe to move ahead, even though it's a little bit early on the schedule. The Board of Selectmen will consider approving the charge for a new Trail Coordination and Management Committee. So, we have here, it was in our packets, a draft for the Trail Coordination and Management Committee. Don't know if people have had a chance to look at it.
We beat this one up at the last meeting.
Beat it up, and we were really anxious to try to get this wrapped up so that we can get moving. I know Mr. LaGoy was kind enough to give some feedback to the board. Do members have comments or input on what has been presented so far?
I'm good.
I'll speak at once.
No, this is, I'm good with it. I gave a lot of input previously, and it all seems to be in here. I'm just grateful to Ms. Lazarus and the members of the Center Trail Committee for their input on this and pushing it along, as well as Mr. LaGoy. It's overdue that we have something like this to coordinate all the trails in town.
Well, I know we've been talking about it for a long time. We really needed to get this wrapped up. Mr. Goy, who's had a lot of experience with trails, sent a note, which maybe many of us saw, suggesting perhaps making this draft and getting the committee appointed and then giving further input to the draft. My feeling is it would, and this is just my feeling, that it would be good to finalize something. If a committee gets up and going, there is always opportunity if committee members really, as they go along and start to see things that need to be changed, I would think we would always be open to making modifications. That's my feeling about not keeping it open anymore.
The way I see it, we just have to start it. We've been talking about this now for at least 3 years, that it's been that the Center Trail Committee, the Upper Charles Trails Committee has been asking us, and they gave us a draft 3 years ago to start looking at it. So, I'd like to make a motion that we adopt it immediately.
Well, before you
I'll hold it.
I have one thing. We've been blessed with a tremendous amount of resources, volunteer resources in the town, who do everything from stewardship to trail building to the whole bit. We wouldn't be as far as we are today without the volunteers, and I don't want to lose that. We also recognize the many, many budget pressures that this town has, and we're always looking at what's going to cost, and we're not looking to add costs. In fact, we're always trying to look to see how can we maintain a level of services, for that matter, with what we've got. I am a little worried about creating a whole new level of budget obligations, given the ongoing financial situations. Item 5 says, make recommendations to the Board of Selectmen and the town manager as to the measures necessary and appropriate to maintain and administer the townwide trail system and program, including recommending an annual operating budget, which includes trash and debris removal, repairs, mowing, resurfacing, and restoration. Prepare an annual management plan for guidance. And I know all those things need to be done. I don't want this to turn into just another large budget item and people feel that, oh, now the town's paying for it, it doesn't need to be done. I don't want to lose the level of volunteerism. I had one suggestion would be to add, because further down it talks about a lot of the public involvement in the public and private trail groups. I thought of adding an item right after that that speaks to that and says, seek and encourage, something like, seek and encourage, coordinate and support volunteer activities in trail construction, maintenance, and stewardship to reduce trail-related costs to the town as much as possible. That's just one thought, to specify that we would like to have this included.
Through the chair, one of the things that, if you noticed, that Mr. Goy pointed out, that there is money available from the host community agreement that came out of Legacy Farms, and that's a kickoff. But we've got miles and miles of trails, and they've been taken care of by a few volunteers, and it's about time that we talk about trails as being a major part of our town's character. And so we've got to put some money behind it. Yes, it's tight budget times. It's sort of like when we were talking about the trees and tree management. At some point we've actually got to do something before they start falling apart. So we've got to put some money aside for these trails. It's nice to continue to encourage volunteers, but we've actually got to put some teeth behind this committee.
I don't disagree with you. That's why we're here. What I'm saying is, I don't want this to send the message that now we're done. There's a town trail department that's going to pay for everything. I would like to see a clear statement that we want to still look to get as much of this done as possible. We still need those volunteer efforts, because, you know, we do have budget issues, and I just don't want to turn this all over to the town budget. So, I don't know, I was just thinking of articulating that, lest someone read this that, oh, well, that's not needed anymore, it's all gonna be paid in the town budget.
Through the chair?
Through the chair.
Mr. Kamala first.
Item number 11 on page 2. Coordinate and manage and adopt a trail program, if appropriate, and coordinate volunteer-driven projects.
Oh,
So maybe that does it.
oh, okay.
Mr. Nazrullah?
Through the chair. One of the things that I really like about this document is that this committee is actually making recommendations to us, that we still have the final say, and we can, you know, we can approve or modify. So even when it comes to the budget, that is something that we would have the final say over, and something that we could modify if needed. I agree with you that the volunteerism is, we wouldn't be here today if it weren't for all the volunteers and creating all these trails. And I think that's something that we definitely want to keep. I think the idea of adopt a trail idea seems unique in my mind, but I guess you see it in the highways as well. But, you know, for signage, people to kind of look after it and take more of an interest in the trails that are right around their house, I think would encourage use and encourage development as well.
I'm good with this.
Kathy?
So I have a couple of questions, if I could, through the chair. Mr. Kamalo, you obviously spent a lot of time, as did Mrs. Lazarus, on this document. Are you guys comfortable with where we are tonight?
Yes, and for a large part owing to the input that we received from the board, from the various groups in town that work on trails, as well as the one-to-one meetings that we had with the chairs of the planning board as well as the conservation commission.
And Mrs. Lazarus, you concur?
I do.
Madam Chair, would it be appropriate to just, well, I guess I could say something and else watch faces. So I'm not aware of any major concerns with the document that we have in front of us from the various stakeholders in the trails community in town. I've seen a couple of emails suggesting a couple of things that we can always tweak at some point, but there's been no major uprising against what we're working on here this evening. I'm all set, thank you.
Okay. As long as we don't send a message that the volunteerism is no longer needed and that we've got this covered under the town budget, because it's still needed, and we want to try to do everything we can to just keep those costs down. And
Through the chair, is there a number that we can throw at it for a budget at this? No. Not at this time?
I think they need to start doing their work and figure out what's needed.
And according to the charge, they would make a recommendation to us as to what a budget would be.
All right, then I'd like to make, do you have a?
I would request a motion to approve the charge for the Trail Coordination and Management Committee as drafted.
So moved.
Second. Sorry, go ahead. We have a second?
Yes.
We do
So
have
is it, question if I could please, is this to establish the committee and issue it a charge, or is this to just deal with the charge right now? What am I missing here?
Our thinking is, as soon as the board, if the board is so inclined, approves the charge, we will advertise.
For the committee
membership.
itself?
Exactly.
Okay. Got it. Thank you.
And in fact, just for people that are listening at home, if that's what we're going to do, maybe I should just read the makeup of the committee, so people can know, if they're interested, that we will be posting it. And this is the, let's see, makeup that's been listed. Composition. The TCMC, what's that? Trails Coordination and Management Committee shall consist of 7 members who are Hopkinton residents and appointed by the Board of Selectmen. Initial members shall be appointed to 1, 2, and 3-year terms to achieve staggered terms, and all members appointed thereafter will serve 3-year terms. No member may serve more than 3 consecutive terms. The membership shall be as follows: 4 members at large, 1 member who is recommended by the Parks and Recreation Commission, 1 member who is recommended by the Conservation Commission, and 1 member who is recommended by the Planning Board. Committees, organizations recommending members may recommend more than 1 for consideration, and those recommended need not be members of the recommending body. All members shall have a demonstrated interest in the development, management, and use of public trails. 1 member or associate member who also has expertise in facilitation and communication is desirable. The Board of Selectmen may appoint up to 5 associate, those would be non-voting members, if desired, in order to broaden the perspective, representation, or to facilitate the charge of the committee. No associate members shall be appointed until 1 year after a quorum of full members has been appointed, so as to allow for time for the committee to fully consider and clarify its purpose and charge. So anyone out there listening who might be interested in this, that will be posted, assuming we vote this. That has been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion or further questions? Okay. All those in favor of approving the charge for the Trail Coordination and Management Committee as drafted, please signify by saying aye. Aye. And opposed? That is unanimous. Okay. That's good. Moving on, we have the Hopkinton Marathon Fund Committee charge revisions.
Yeah, in fact, a simple update. The Marathon Fund Committee met on the 8th of January. They are scheduled to meet again on February 11th. At the January 8th meeting, they did review the existing charge, had some discussion regarding the formats in general, as well as opportunities to better clarify the composition and terms section. They indicated to me that they would like to review the charge, the draft charge further, and at that point after February 11th would forward some additional comments for the board's consideration. And in fact, Carol Nathan, the chair of the Marathon Fund Committee, the Hopkinton Marathon Fund Committee, is here tonight.
So you are recommending, and the committee is asking, that this be postponed for further discussion, but Ms. Nathan would like to speak with us for a moment? Is that?
For a minute?
Absolutely. Come on up, Carol.
Thank you so much.
Don't want to rush you. If the board's, if you're not ready, then by all means.
Big accents, I'm a little frazzled, so just bear with me. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Carol.
Thank you.
Do you have a PowerPoint?
No, God, no. So we met on January 8th, and the committee reviewed the documents. Our original charge, which Brian, in January 2012, you were really instrumental in helping us craft and create, and thank you. That was a whole lot of work, and it was a great document, and our new proposed document. So the committee asked to take some time to really look at the differences in the documents and thoughtfully really compare what it is and what some of the language is. We're a very thoughtful committee. And we were going to meet on February 11th, but now there's a special time meeting. So we're trying to reschedule that. And we'll reconvene, not electronically, in person, to discuss edits. So we're working on all of that. But I would just like to say one thing, and that's thank you to all of you, and thank you for tonight for the earlier approvals. Our committee takes what we do very seriously, and in turn we get great reward, and we feel very good about giving back what we can. And at the end of the day, it's really not a lot of money. We
it varies year to year, and we get like, I think this year, $24,000, which, you know, in the big picture isn't a lot of money, but to these smaller groups and organizations and kids in the senior centers, it means a whole lot. So thank you for that. And I think, Claire, I think you had a question maybe about scholarships?
Well, the way it was written, it was almost sounding like scholarship was the priority, and yet there were all these other things, although it never turns out that way.
Well, I think because it's always been done, it's historical. I believe since inception, we've helped almost 175 Hopkinton kids. And it's based on athletic, varsity ladder, but it's also based on community service. And we don't know who these kids are, and God bless Maria, because we get the applications, and they're blind. We have no idea who they are. And I think John can attest to, the night that we sit down and read them, these kids have to write, it's a 200-word essay, which is not very big. So it's interesting. It's really interesting to read a lot of this, and I think it's so meaningful for so many of these kids and so many of these families. It's $1,500, 3 women, 3 men, and we do have accountability because we just don't give them the money right away. They have to complete their first semester in college before the town will forward the scholarship money. So there is accountability. It's not like, thanks for the scholarship, I'm going to go on a gap year, so we try and monitor it, and it's really important. It means a lot. And so I just want to say, we're working on it. You'll get our document. We're fine. Thank you. But in the meanwhile, just on behalf of the committee, thank you all very much for letting us do what we do.
And to clarify, where I was coming from, I was concerned that the way the language is written, it might become construed that this is first and foremost a scholarship fund and all the athletic stuff comes later. But I mean, you look at, we had an accounting just tonight of all the different things, and that obviously never happens because there's a whole laundry list of other things, and we've seen them all come to us. It's a little here and a little there, and that doesn't happen, and I don't think that's, that's a danger.
And that's part of the joy of it. It really is. That's part of the joy of it. Yeah. Again, it's not a whole lot,
broadly,
but we can do with it.
Exactly. Because who can be opposed to scholarships? I'm certainly not. I just want to make sure that it benefits a wide, and obviously it does.
And again, we try to help as many organizations as we possibly can throughout the course of the year with what little we have. So. You'll hear from us. We're fine. And in the meantime, thank you all very, very, very much.
And can I just ask one question, though, on the charge while we're right here? I noticed that it spoke of someone from the school department, and I'm just double checking. It is department. It's not school committee.
I think it's school
One member was recommended by the school department.
I think it should be school committee.
I wondered.
Well, that's a really good question.
Before we see your...
Again, I'll rely on your guidance.
Yeah.
Whether in the past it's been somebody, some representative from the school department, or it's specifically somebody from the school committee.
Make a note.
I will make a note.
Figure that out. Okay.
Okay, that's great.
Well, thank you.
Well, thank you very, very much. Thank you. I'll see you soon, and you'll be hearing from us. So
soon as you're
ready.
No
worries. And thank you, Norman.
You know where to find us.
Thank you.
Thank you, Carol. Thank you so much. Okay, moving right along. Next is a public safety request. The Board of Selectmen will consider the police chief's request regarding job descriptions and assignment of duties. This is, where's the proposal? Where is it? Isn't it? Sorry about that. Where's the proposal that I had? The motion, this is it. Okay, so this is a proposal from the chief of police. The chief is not here tonight. The lucky guy is on vacation somewhere warm, and we're not, so this is the chief's response. This is a response to a long-standing conversation that has been going on with the department and the Board of Selectmen. And the chief writes as follows: as the department continues to grow along with the needs of the community, We are constantly assessing our personnel structure to prepare for the growth of the department and to meet the community's needs. I respectfully request to reclassify Lieutenant Joe Bennett's current title of lieutenant to that of Deputy Chief of Police. This move will be a positive step forward for our 26-member police force and 15-member full/part-time communications department. My vision is to enhance the department in the area of communication, chain of command, unity of command, and this will assist in the span of control over personnel and tasks to be performed. Any consideration for this change would be greatly appreciated. So, if board members have questions or comments, you are free to make them. Otherwise, we will entertain a motion to accept the chief's recommendation.
Madam Chair. Through the chair, Mr. Khumalo, has this topic been discussed with our human resources professional?
Yes, it has been.
And is it within our role and responsibility to be able to make a promotion such as this without posting for a new job, etc.? Do you know what I'm saying?
Yes. In fact, we did discuss this specific issue with town council, purely as a refresher, based on the fact that the town has done this in past instances. For example, the assistant town manager went through a similar process, and we've done similarly with other town positions. The conclusion by town council is that the reassignment of duties and reimagining of the title for the position does not necessarily create a vacancy, and therefore this is a promotion.
Thank you.
So what we would be voting tonight will be subject to the chief, the town manager, and our human resources department working out the actual job classification and job description. Those are details to be worked out. We will simply be voting the chief's recommendation. Then hearing no further comment, I request a motion to accept the police chief's recommendation to promote Joe Bennett to Deputy Chief of Police, subject to the police chief, town manager, and human resources working out the job classification and job description.
So moved. Second.
All right.
Chair.
Mr. Herr?
So, I think this is a position that we need in town, regardless of whose name is in front of it. Frankly, I think that the department has grown substantially over the years. The town has grown obviously substantially over the years. The number of incidents has grown, et cetera, et cetera. So I think for a lot of different reasons, the position of a deputy police chief makes sense, like the position of a deputy fire chief makes sense. I think Joe Bennett, being the person that steps into the deputy police chief position, is an excellent first holder of that title, given his experience in the community and his approach and all that does go on and that is so important in our police department. I think it's a great win-win all around here, and I fully support this effort.
I echo those same comments. I've known Joe Bennett since the day he got here as a police officer. I didn't know him before. Matter of fact, his first day that he worked for the town, he and I were on a detail together down on Oakhurst Road when they were putting the sewer in. He's been a driving force to keep that department professional. He's a disgustingly smart individual, and he takes great pride in his work. So I think this is a win-win, and hopefully we can keep him in our department, and he's a resource that a lot of people don't know what we have with Joe. So I think we're very fortunate to have him in the department, and I wholeheartedly support his promotion.
Could not agree more. What's been said, we're changing town, growing town, we need to change to better equip ourselves for the future, and I think this is an excellent move all around. It will make us a stronger force, and I'm all in favor. Are there further comments, or shall we move to a vote?
Let's go.
Okay. Motion has been made and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And opposed, that is unanimous. Thank you very much. Excellent. And 2019 annual town meeting, the board will discuss its own annual town meeting articles, including any general bylaw changes. Have we got some specifics to discuss, Mr. Khumalo, or are there things the board members would like to put forth?
Again, we are compiling our list. This is simply a reminder to the board that if you have any suggestions, ideas, please let us know. We're hoping that the board will finalize this list at your next meeting.
The warrant closes February 5th. So our next meeting is the 28th. What would happen if we got a snowstorm?
I will pick us up on my snowmobile.
Did you ever see a snowmobile? Oh.
I'd love to ride a snowmobile.
As long as it's a state of emergency, I can go anywhere.
We just hope that's not going to happen.
State of emergency, I can go anywhere.
We would not have a chance to vote them, would we? Unless we had a special meeting. Let's schedule another meeting.
Yeah, we'll schedule a special meeting.
Yeah.
In fact,
what does the brain trust
yes,
say over there in the corner?
Elaine just reminded me that there are two meetings, one on the 25th and the other on the 29th.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. The meeting on the 25th is because of the special town meeting. Yeah. And what are we doing at that meeting?
Signing the warrant.
Signing the warrant for the special town meeting.
Yeah.
So
good.
We don't know if it's going to snow on the 28th yet, on the 25th, but we'll just, maybe we can, are you saying that we might be able to discuss the town meeting articles then? No.
If it snows on the 25th,
but if it snows,
we will hope it doesn't snow on the 28th.
And if it snows on the 28th,
if it snows on the 28th,
we've missed the 25th.
We will schedule an emergency meeting.
We'll have to.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Are there any members of the board that have any topics for that warrant that they would like to bring up to be considered?
Well, Mr. Khumalo said that he already has a placeholder in, should try and if we can find any parking available around town. That's one I was worried about.
Well, there's time. That can be communicated. I just didn't know if there was anything right burning that someone wanted to bring up. Mr. Herring,
I personally have been through lots of town meetings. We've had lots of things on the town meeting, and I'm looking forward to not having a lot of town meetings.
This is true.
Change. I think that the community could use a little breather this year, personally, and so I'm sitting here quiet. Thank you.
Understood. Can't disagree with you. Okay, well, hearing nothing, then we don't need to stay here any longer than necessary. Next and almost last would be the town manager's report, and that includes the FY20 budget update. Mr. Khumalo, what you have for us tonight?
I simply want to confirm to the board that we're continuing our meetings with our colleagues from the school committee as well as the chair of the appropriations committee. So far, the meetings have been very productive. The last discussion was very encouraging in terms of how we might be able to meet or come very close to the budget guidelines that were set by the board.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. So hopefully we won't have last year's budget experience repeated. We will be better positioned to meet our calendar.
Yes.
Sounds that way. Okay. So we have the liaison reports and board invites. Any reports from board members would like to share?
Just kind of tagging on to the budget discussion, Mrs. Wright and I have attended a couple, if not 3, of the school committee meetings where they discussed the various budgets at the building level, department level, and then overall, they had a presentation last week. I've seen a couple of additional invites. I'm not sure why. I thought they kind of wrapped up their overall budget to send to us, but anyway, I thought the discussions and the dialogue and the detail that they went through and then presented was very thorough, and I'm confident that the schools are doing everything possible to educate our kids as best they can and spend the money as wisely as they can. They are under tremendous pressure for budget, for the next year's budget, given the size of the growth or the amount of growth in town. The number of the children coming in is almost astronomical in terms of new growth, for towns across Massachusetts. And I think that it was a very thorough process, and I was pleased to support them when I was at their meetings.
Yeah, I would concur with that. I think we're just on the meeting invite loop at this point because the next couple ones haven't really, they've made their decisions. But yeah, Mr. Herr and I have both been at these meetings, and, I just want to say in general, commend the school committee a lot for the work they've done this year, and the superintendent and the business manager. They've had a lot of pressures, and yet they seem quite committed not to repeat the really difficult 11th hour process that we went through last year, and despite the pressures, have really worked to try to have a smoother process and get us where we need to be. So I know it represents an awful lot of work because they haven't had a lot to work with when you look at the amount of discretionary non-contract obligations that they have to make accommodations with. So they deserve a lot of credit. So other input?
No, I actually don't have any this week. I went to a couple meetings, but I'm still waiting to hear some of the outcomes, and so I'll save that one till I get some outcomes. Yes.
Well, I will just make note of one invite. We've had a bunch of invites, but one invite that's come to the board is from, the group goes by HCAA. This is the Hopkinton Chinese Americans Association, and they are celebrating Chinese New Year's on February 2nd at Hopkins School, and it looks like many of our board members jump at the opportunity to have some homemade Chinese food. So I think a bunch of us are going to go and help them celebrate. This is a new, it's great. We had the South Asian Circle come recently, now the Chinese Americans. It's great that we've got these different ethnic organizations that are forming, and including the town members, and so should be a good time.
I want to be the head of that dragon that they run around.
Or you want to be the end. You want to be the head, right?
I want to be the end. I'm always the end.
Madam Chair.
Mr. Nasrallah.
Somewhat along those lines, the mosque on Wood Street is this Sunday going to be celebrating Martin Luther King Day. And they will be having a celebration, and all are invited.
It's very confusing because the schools and things are observing it on the 21st, but the real birthday was the 15th. So I would have thought Monday the 14th would have been, I don't know.
All I know is it usually falls right around my birthday, and so yes, I know when Martin Luther King Day comes.
What's your birthday? Tomorrow. Oh, happy birthday. We can say happy birthday. Okay. All right, are we good? Everybody's had their 2 cents?
Yep.
Okay. Any future board agenda items besides going home?
Madam Chair, at some point, I assume we're going to be getting an update on the downtown corridor project. Thought it might be this week, but soon.
Yes. Trying to see which meeting might work best as the next meetings will be focusing on the budget. We'll try and see if the day that we have could be the day we ask Dave also to give an update on Main Street.
That'd be great. Just 10 minutes. Where are we? Where are we going? Just,
yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And it was just brought to my attention that there was a commercial tax recalculation or a new algorithm used. Is there any way you can, at next meeting or something, explain to us what happened or what it is that what?
Briefly, by state statute, the Board of Assessors has the authority to determine the methodology or the formula used for valuing property in town. I understand the Board of Assessors may have made this adjustment perhaps a couple years back, and so it took effect the last year. That's why it's showing up now. Based on my general understanding, the taxes that are set for each parcel are driven by the market.
No, I just want to make sure that we're fully transparent.
Yeah.
Here we are, we had Lykan here today and other companies. I want to make sure that we still look like that we are business friendly and that we, if something was done a few years ago, that we at some point maybe let the Chamber of Commerce or businesses understand that something's going to be taking effect on January 1st, so that it doesn't come as a big surprise when people get their tax bills.
Yeah, no, that point is well taken. And also, similarly, if any residents or business owners are watching and have any questions, I really refer them to John Nis, the principal assessor. He's excellent at explaining the formulas.
Okay. If there are no other additions, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, that is unanimous. Thank you very much. And I'm assuming everybody signed these nice little forms for Connor.
Good night, kids.
Let's see.
Good job on the trails committee.
What are we signing?
Everybody, those conflict of interest receipt forms, I got them all, right?
Congratulations.
Now, let me see.